Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into some serious data strategy.
Let's do it.
Today we're tackling KnowNow information and their data management canvas. Have you seen this thing?
Oh yeah, it's like the Swiss Army knife of data management. Super practical.
All right, because it's one thing to talk about data-driven decisions, but actually getting your data in shape to make those decisions, that's the tough part.
Totally. And this canvas breaks it down into manageable steps.
Which is exactly why we're doing a deep dive. We'll pull out the juiciest bits, the stuff you can actually use, and they kick things off with stakeholders.
Makes sense, right? Data without a purpose is just noise.
Yeah, but it's more nuanced than just, like, knowing who's on your team.
Way more. The canvas talks about data threads, basically connecting each stakeholder to the specific info they need.
Oh, I like that visual. So each thread is like a direct line from a person to their data point.
Exactly. And when those threads are clear, things run smoothly. But when they get tangled...
Uh-oh, that sounds like trouble. Give me a worst-case scenario.
Okay, picture this. You're running marketing, drowning in data, right. But you try to launch a campaign and realize you have no clue what your customers actually want. Sales is using different data, customer service is another planet. It's a mess.
A data-driven disaster.
Exactly. And that's why this stakeholder piece is so huge.
So how do we keep those data threads from turning into a bird's nest?
Detail, detail, detail.
Okay, so like more than just names on a spreadsheet.
Way more. Think of it like building personas, but for data. You're getting in their heads, what are their goals? What information do they actually need to do their job well?
Okay, so like those profiles designers create, but for data needs.
You got it. And that's how you prevent those data pileups later on.
Speaking of data, where does all this stuff even come from? It's not just spreadsheets and databases, right?
Oh, you'd be surprised. The KnowNow guide has this whole list, and some of it's pretty out there, like customer feedback forms, sensor data if you're doing IoT.
Yeah.
Even public data sets.
It's like data is everywhere.
It really is. And then there's social media, which is its own beast. But that actually reminds me of their point about minimization, which I thought was really interesting. More data doesn't automatically mean better insights.
Right, like you could have a million data points, but if they're not the right data points...
Totally. It's like that saying, can't see the forest for the trees. You just get lost in the weeds.
It gets expensive trying to manage it all too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Storage costs money, obviously, but then there's the time it takes to keep it organized, make sure it's secure. Plus, the more data you have, the bigger a target you are for breaches. Not to mention the ethics of data privacy these days. It's a lot.
Okay, so how do we find that sweet spot? How do we become like minimalist data experts?
Well, the canvas stresses being laser focused on your goals. So before you even start collecting anything, ask yourself, what questions am I actually trying to answer with this data?
So don't just hoard data just in case.
Exactly. Be picky. Also, look for redundancies. You might be surprised how often you're collecting similar info from multiple sources.
Oh, for sure. Like, do we really need 5 different reports that all basically say the same thing?
Right. Streamline it. And think about aggregating data whenever possible. Do you need every single data point, or would a summary give you the same insights but with less risk?
Okay, love those tips. So once we've minimized, where does it all go? Section 3, data storage.
And this is key. It's not just about finding a digital warehouse to dump it all. It's about choosing the right strategy based on what kind of data it is and how long you need it for.
All right, because a funny meme I'm saving probably doesn't need the same level of security as, like, customer credit card info.
Exactly. The Canvas has this great table, the how much, how long for, how often. It makes you really think about your data's lifespan.
I like it. Makes you realize not all data is created equal.
Exactly. Like, short-term campaign data might be fine on a cloud-based system, super accessible, but long-term stuff, financial records, research data that might need a different approach.
Yeah, you don't want to mess around with that.
Definitely not. You might even do a hybrid thing, store some locally for extra safety and some in the cloud to be cost-effective.
And backups, that's got to be a huge part of this, right?
Non-negotiable. They emphasize a multi-layered backup strategy like diversifying your data portfolio, just in case.
Peace of mind. Okay, so we've got stakeholders, we're minimizing like pros, storing everything securely. What's next?
Now comes the part that might not sound as exciting, but it's crucial: data governance.
Data governance. Okay, I admit, it doesn't exactly scream exciting.
I know, right? But it's one of those essential things.
Like flossing.
Exactly. But instead of healthy gums, we're talking about, like, healthy data practices.
So preventing total data chaos.
Exactly. Think of it like setting the rules of the road for your data. You need those policies in place, those clear roles and responsibilities, and, of course, making sure you're compliant with all the regulations out there.
So it's about protecting your data, too, not just organizing it.
Huge part of it. We've all seen those data breach headlines, right?
Yeah, not a good look.
Definitely not. And I actually worked with a company once. They had this major breach because their data access was a mess. Like, sensitive information was just left wide open.
Ouch. That's got to be every company's worst nightmare.
It was bad. They were cleaning up that mess for months, cost them a fortune. It really drives home the point that governance, it's about protecting yourself as much as it is about using data effectively.
And building trust with your customers, too, right? If they know you're handling their data responsibly.
Exactly. It all ties together.
Okay, so we're in the home stretch now. Last section of the canvas, data sustainability.
The long game.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we get so caught up in what we need from our data right
Yeah.
now. But this is about, what, thinking bigger picture.
Exactly. They use this interesting visual, the event horizon graph. Basically, it shows how data's value can actually change over time.
Okay, data with a shelf life. I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this graph.
So imagine this timeline. At the very beginning, right, the data is fresh, it's super relevant, you're using it for all your current projects. But then, as time goes on, that same data, it might not be as useful for those day-to-day operations anymore.
But it's not necessarily useless.
Right. It could still be super valuable for other things. Historical analysis, long-term planning.
So what kind of data would fall into that, like, long-term value category?
Yeah, good question. Things like financial records, obviously, you've got to keep those for years. Or research data, even if it's not relevant to a project right now, it could be a gold mine down the line.
That makes sense. So how does this all connect back to our listener then? Why should they care about data sustainability?
Because it's about being a good ancestor to your future self. Think about what data you might be grateful to have 5, 10 years from now. Customer trends, market data, even just like how you ran a specific project.
It's like if you're organized now, your future self will thank you.
Exactly. Less headache down the line.
Love it.
Yeah.
It's like we've spent this whole deep dive building a house for our data. Solid foundation, strong walls. But this data sustainability, this is about making sure that house is still standing strong years from now.
That's a great way to put it.
So there you have it, everyone. The KnowNow Data Management Canvas. From understanding your stakeholders to making sure your data has staying power. We covered it all.
And the best part is, it's all actionable. You can take these steps and actually apply them to your own work.
Absolutely. And you don't have to become a data expert overnight either. Just start with one thing. Pick one data thread in your own work right now. Think about who's involved, where that data comes from, what you're using it for. Just by asking those questions, you're already on your way to becoming way more data savvy.
Couldn't agree more.
Until next time, happy data diving.